Peaceful as Time Goes By came my way very early on, written by another writer. The first script was with another title called Winter with Flowers, which I'm happy to say we changed. And I got Sidney Lotterby, who directed it, on board. He was my suggestion. And we had, then Bob Larby came on board to write the series, and a lot of discussions. And I mean, I take my hat off to Bob Larby in everything, you know. We finished, we did however many, 60-something shows we did, all written by Bob, who, and every time we got the scripts, I got the scripts, I'd read through them and say, nothing happens. There's nothing. And I'd ring up Sid Lotterby, who had already said, I'm sending the scripts to you. And I said, what are they like, Sid? And he said, read them, tell me. And I ring him up and he said, what do you think? And I said, they're a bit thin, aren't they? You know, and he said, well, that's what I think. And I said, well, they'll play better, you know. Actually, there are a few funny things in it. But you start working on them, and they were very, very funny scripts in a gentle way. But nice, gently quirky characters, you know, like Alistair.
Instead of having to face a team of writers, all of whom were, you know, busily readjusting things and tuning the whole thing, there was one guy you could go to, and we established a good relationship with him, I think. And he's been doing it for a very long time, so he knows how to indulge an artist. You know, I mean, an actor's going to go to him and say, "Can I do that?" And he'll tactfully deny that would work, or if it's a good idea, he'll take it on board. After all, his name is going to be on the end of it, so if it's a good line and a good joke, he'll get the credit for it. So why not? And he's broad enough shoulders to be able to do that. So we would add things and do things, and you know, you don't want to make out that it's the kind of precious actor thing of, oh, my character wouldn't do that. But then occasionally there'd be the opportunity. You think, well, if I just tweak this little or I change that, don't you think that would make it funny? And he'd say, try it out, and if it worked, it worked.
We wouldn't vary the script, very, very rarely go off script at all, because we wouldn't need to. And if we ever were tempted to, it would never work as well anyway. Even if we were allowed to do it, which our director wouldn't, he'd probably hang us out to dry if we tried it too much. And that's astonishing when you think about it, for 11 years, to write that many scripts that tightly as well. And without those scripts, I think the programme wouldn't have lasted as long as, or with someone else coming in, or with several people all trying to do it, I don't think it would have worked in the same way.
You know, gentle comedies, well, does that mean that they're not funny? You know, it's just like when they say, oh, this guy's a perfectionist. I always think, all right, well, yeah, that means he's a son of a bitch. You know, so, but I think in this case it's true. You know, you had to, the comedy was based on a romantic idea, on the meeting of two people, something that had the potential to be quite melancholy, that had a deep well of regret in it, in that those two people were meeting having spent all those years apart, through an accident of fate. You know, the fact that a letter went missing, so each assumed that the other didn't want to know anymore. And then through an accident of fate, they get together later on. I think it really pays to have that kind of basis in any kind of comedy, because that kind of reality, that potential for something being quite melancholy, quite sad, really pays off in the end, because it buys the broader laughs that you can get elsewhere. So that we were able to, you know, have quite broad comedy characters. We were able to have Rocky and Madge. We were able to have the characters in the country, but we could always come back to that sort of bittersweetness of the original romance, so that you know, you'd get the ah moment as well as the big laugh moment.
I don't think people generally thought of it as a sitcom in England, probably if ever, partly because we had Judy and Geoffrey in it, and so if you have Judy and Geoffrey in it, you don't really think of it as a sitcom. It was always thought of as a comedy series, which is a slightly different thing. Although it obviously is a sitcom because that's how it's set. But I think it moved into the national consciousness in England to being just a way of life, just observing a way of life for people, and observing how we all related to each other, and as we all slightly grew older, although in the scripts we never grew as old as we really did. But I think it did. And by the end, when we made the last series last year, there was a quote when it went out in England in one of the British newspapers that said, after we'd shown the last episode, and it said, "Last night a little bit of England died," which I thought was over the top, but was very sweet. I mean, it was over dramatic to say that, but I think there was a sense that they don't often make that kind of thing anymore in England. They don't make gentle comedies based in some kind of reality. They don't really make that anymore, and so I think people relished that and liked that and were comforted by it in a way, and will miss it, I think.
I think the best comedies, the best written comedies, always allow that space for that to happen, where we care about the characters. We're not just there for, you know, the easy ride, for the easy laugh. We're there to care for their relationships.
Sid, the producer, said, "I think you've got to make Lionel, you've got to do something with Lionel, you've got to write him a bit edgy. He's got to have, the money's gone, he's sort of, you know, had a good life in Kenya, he's got a failed marriage, which he feels guilty about. Make him a bit awkward, make him a bit, you know, he's going to be in a house full of women, for God's sake, there are going to be knickers hanging up everywhere, you know. And make him not happy with the way England's gone in the time he's gone away and all that." So the character was added to the basic character by Bob Larby was a guy with a hidden sort of romantic sense, but a bit of anger, a bit irascible, a bit intolerant, which I think made it easier for me. And I go through life with truck drivers saying, not knowing who I am, "Cheer up, it might not happen," you know. So I'm lumbered with this and the hooter, and I look miserable, which I don't think I am. And I think that's been helpful in certain areas, a gravitas verging on the end of the world, Armageddon, you know, I don't know. And I think I don't look as though I'm entertaining anyone, so maybe that gives an impression of truth or reality or everydayness or something which has an appeal, I don't know. Yeah, another pleasure about the series was the relationship between Lionel and the young, thrusting, hideously, nauseatingly successful Alistair, who is brash and horrible and keeps calling me lie and all that. And of course there is, what was nice, an affection grew, and there was a bond between us.
They were a little distrustful of him at first, I think. They weren't sure what his motives were, particularly in the fact that he was a free agent and that he was obviously a bit of a predatory male. But as he became more affectionate towards the character of the daughter, and you know, we saw that he had a genuine kind of a heart to him, and I think they warmed to him more then. And then just took, you know, his occasional lapses as, you know, not major things, just the odd little peccadillo, really.